this morning, depending on where you're at and located across the globe. So we'll jump right into introductions. My name is John Gretter. I represent the SAP service line for YASH Technologies. For today's purposes, you can look at me as your facilitator. So I will keep things moving and keep the focus on our great facilitators between Jeff, Sridhar, and Vikram. With that said, Jeff, I'll move over to you for your introduction, sir.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Kaznika, and I am the new Microsoft Sales and Alliance Director for YASH Technologies, and very excited to be with you today, talking about how you can leverage Azure to make more out of your SAP environment.
Thanks, Jeff. Sridhar, over to you, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you, John. Thank you all once again. Let me also welcome for joining this discussion on SAP on Azure demystifying capabilities. My name is Sridhar Oruganti. I am based out of the US, and I am responsible for the SAP technical and SAP infrastructure oriented services in the US for YASH Technologies. Thank you once again. Welcome you all.
And Vikram, certainly the final introduction, but not the least introduction. Please give your introduction, sir.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everybody. This is Vikram Kankam. I'm a senior solution architect, over 18 plus years of experience. Multiple cloud migrations is my forte. Thank you. Over to you, John.
All right. Appreciate it, Vikram. Thanks, everyone, for your introductions. Let's get the nuts and bolts of today's engagement out of the way. And the first thing I want to explain is this is not going to be death by PowerPoint. That we take that very seriously. Everybody has learned from these webinars. None of us want to spend an hour watching PowerPoint slides that quite honestly could have just been sent directly to you and allowed you to go through it at your leisure. This is a subject matter led roundtable discussion between Jeff, Sridhar, and Vikram. And the title of today's webinar is spot on. I really like what the group came up with around demystifying capabilities. Moving to the cloud and making all these migrations, it is a huge trend in our industry, and there's all kinds of information out there, and it makes it tough sometimes to sort through what is factual, what might be mythical, what's important to you. And as we go through today's webinar, leading up to our next webinar that we'll be hosting on March 23rd at 11 a.m. Eastern, that will be a little bit more specific as we touch on the topic of migration and modernization. This will be more of an overarching webinar today where we start to sort through the clutter and put things into perspective on focus points and really start to outline what a successful engagement with YASH Technologies around those Azure capabilities looks like. So as you go through today's webinar, obviously, like I said, it'll be a roundtable discussion with our subject matter leaders. But if you have questions, we want to hear them. And the best way to do that is on the chat function that you find on Teams. That is at the top ribbon. For example, on my screen, there's a top ribbon. It looks like a message bubble. And when I highlight over it, it says show conversation. When you click on that, you can ask questions, and our team that is in the background will see those questions. If we have time allowed in the webinar, we'll answer them live. But if we don't worry, we will get to you all and get all of those questions answered in a response manner, either directly or as a group as time permits, either during the webinar or after the webinar. So again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to use that conversation tab at the top of your Teams ribbon. So now getting into the webinar itself, let's get the information about YASH. So if you're new to a YASH webinar, who is YASH? Why are we uniquely positioned to host a webinar like this? YASH Technologies has been in this space for over 26 years now. So very, very deep knowledge of not only SAP, but the Azure system as well. From a holistic company standpoint, over 6,500 YASH team members globally. That's over 6,500. I mean, for me, that's a huge number. That's more people than lived in the town I grew up in. So when I hear 6,500 people, that's like, oh my goodness. But all of those 6,500 people work very closely together and enable our customer projects to reach a successful outcome. For our SAP specific capability, nearly half of that YASH team has SAP visibility. YASH is a very deep capability laden company around SAP, whether it's S4, whether we are endeavoring on a Rise with SAP deal. It could be SAP on cloud, infrastructure, solution manager. The list goes on and on. And I had to say solution manager because my man Streeter loves solution manager. So I had to get that plug in there for him, but technical resources, also SAP infrastructure. When it comes to SAP, YASH, I cannot overstate this enough. YASH is a very deep company in SAP capabilities. But for today, we'll really dive into that partnership that YASH has, not only from an SAP perspective, but also from an Azure perspective. And my colleague, Jeff, as he said he's new. Jeff's been doing this for years and years and years in his career. He's just new to YASH Technologies, and we are thrilled to have him. He's already made a huge impact on YASH in the months since he's joined the company. And with that said, I'm going to turn this over to Jeff at this point in time. And Jeff, have you jump into that partnership that YASH has that you're leading up, and really what's in it for the audience today, and give them a sneak peek of what they're going to be experiencing with Sridhar and Vikram as they get into more of the technical aspects of demystifying the Azure capabilities. Jeff, over to you, sir.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Yes, and you are correct. I have been selling and working with Microsoft for well over 20 years now, and very excited to be a part of YASH because they are heavily investing within Microsoft. Many of you on the call know that YASH is a fantastic SAP partner and probably work with them, and that's part of the reason that you're on the call today. But did you know that YASH has been a Microsoft partner for close to 20 years? We have been, and we've been delivering Microsoft services both on-prem and in the Microsoft cloud that whole period of time. Microsoft recognizes YASH as a top partner for migrating and supporting SAP on Azure workloads, as well as a host of other different Microsoft solutions. So when you look at Azure infrastructure, when you look at the security around Azure, if you need assistance with DevOps, if you want to leverage AI and machine learning, either as a part of your SAP environment on Azure or as a standalone sort of a solution, we can help you with that. We have deep experience around the Power Platform, which, if you don't know what that is, that includes Microsoft's great solution, Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate. We also do application modernization, not just for SAP, but for a host of other different either customized applications, anything that you want to modernize and bring to the cloud, YASH can assist with. So from improving how you run SAP workloads to undergoing broader digital transformation, when you leverage YASH to migrate your SAP workloads to Azure, you're taking advantage of a global scale partner, recognized for its SAP competencies. And with Azure, we have over 1,000 cloud resources and consultants. We are a certified Azure Gold partner in 9 different Microsoft categories. When you migrate Azure SAP workloads to Azure with YASH, we ensure performance that your end users can expect. So you're getting the same, if not better, performance from your solution when we help you architect it. And when if you're concerned about security around your critical SAP data that required, we can help you mitigate those risks, both the technical risk, the commercial risk, and the transformational risk. Post-migration, YASH and Azure offer a breadth of services to help you modernize and transform your applications and take advantage of new technologies only available in the cloud, such as AI and machine learning. So we're here to help you as you make this journey, and we can help you make the best decisions possible as you're looking to migrate your SAP workloads to the cloud. So that's kind of just a quick synopsis of who we are and what we are as a partner to Microsoft. John, I'll turn it back over to you as we move forward with the webinar.
Jeff, thank you for giving that overview. I would have butchered that, so you did a fantastic job, and I'm sure the audience appreciates the overview that you're able to provide. And get into the nuts and bolts of this now. And Sridhar, I'll move over and get your perspective next. If I were in the audience, or if I were a customer thinking about migrating my system to any of the hyperscalers out there, I want to give the audience a taste of why Azure. Why would Azure be the right fit? And I know we've talked a lot about it in the build up to this webinar, but this is the perfect point to start the discussion of why would you select Azure, and then we can walk it down the ladder from there.
Sure. Actually, I mean, that was an interesting question, John. I mean, we actually passed through the phases of various different customers already identifying the need for moving their systems more so on the SAP side of the world of the systems to one of the hyperscalers. It has been going on. Many our own customers, our own prospects have already taken that step. They have already started their journey in one way or the other by moving their systems to cloud, more so in the context of SAP. But why Azure? Why not other hyperscalers? That's an interesting question. So we know for sure that, I mean, there are other hyperscalers who probably would have actually started building the cloud platform capabilities, the PaaS platform capabilities, platform as a service kind of a product portfolio capabilities, even before Microsoft did. Over a period of time, taking another step back, in fact, I mean, SAP systems are very, very business critical systems. I mean, we all know, I mean, there is no doubt about that. I mean, many of the customers' businesses run and without touching SAP, probably we can't even imagine any businesses run nowadays. And these systems are very, very not only business critical, but also resource hungry, especially ever since SAP started introducing the HANA database and the HANA database based application, the S4 HANA system and so on. S4 and I mean a lot of other systems, and these systems require a lot of resources. While every hyperscaler for sure provide SAP certified hardware components, Azure also provides in that context. I mean, what is the differentiator? One of the important differentiating factors when it comes to Microsoft Azure platform is the native integrations of the Azure platform with the existing some or the other Microsoft products that every customer probably have in their existing licensing structure, in their systems, in their applications. I mean, I can't imagine a single customer in the world, I mean, not having a Microsoft platform based or Microsoft product running in their portfolio, be it an Office oriented products, on-prem oriented products, or maybe Office 365 or a Power Platform based or some of the other SQL databases and whatnot. All of these have been there with every customer. And more importantly, look at the very foundation. The foundation of internal organizations is actually based on the Active Directory and initial Active Directory setup. Whenever an employee joins a company, I mean, basically his very ID and the credentials are actually introduced into the Active Directory of a customer and of a network. And that probably is more or less is based out of a Microsoft Active Directory. All of these are Microsoft products. I mean, Microsoft product based activities that are going on with every customer scenario. And if you were to really use any other hyperscaler versus an Azure, you are probably losing out on the native integrations that you would get by default out of the box from the Azure platform versus the other platforms. All of these are native out of the box. And more importantly, this is probably unique to Microsoft. I mean, Microsoft runs on SAP. Lot of other hyperscalers businesses probably do not run on SAP, but I mean, Microsoft, their own internal business processes run on SAP. So no other hyperscaler can claim that, I mean, we have better skin in the game than Microsoft. because I mean their own business is actually running on SAP, and those SAP systems are running on Microsoft's own Azure platform. And considering all of these, not only when it comes to all of these native integrations and so on and so forth, SAP and Microsoft have been working together for more than 20 years together, not only increasing the underlying platform capabilities, coming up with the SAP certified environment that can host SAP systems, Rise on SAP, the recent offering from SAP, wherein the SaaS solutions like an S4 private cloud edition, S4 public cloud edition, an Ariba, an IBP, SuccessFactors, all of these are available even within Azure platform provided by SAP. So these are all available within Microsoft Azure platform on one side, and those can be easily provisioned by just requesting from SAP. And through SAP, I mean, Microsoft Azure will actually help in provisioning those systems and giving those systems to Microsoft. While this is all the platform capabilities predominantly, which are pretty common, a lot of hyperscalers can also claim that all of these are pretty common and so on and so forth. As I was telling, native integrations. I mean, for example, the platform through which we are actually talking today, the Microsoft Teams, for example. I mean, all of you have joined the Microsoft Teams. There is a native integration coming out of SAP from Microsoft. I mean, and as a joint responsibility, as a joint offering from both Microsoft and SAP, there is a native integration from Microsoft and SAP. What are the use cases? Enormous. Take, for example, an end customer actually can request a quotation through Microsoft if the end customers and the customers, I mean, our customers and their own customers, their customers organizations can be federated with Microsoft Teams across the organizations. And once that is done, through chat, they can raise requests for quotations. They can actually seek for quotations, and our own customers, you all, can actually provide the quotations through the Microsoft automatically. But this entire information is actually pulled out of SAP through Teams platform, can also be positioned to the customers. All of these are native out of the box. You can actually think the possibilities are actually very, very huge. Once you really see the power of Microsoft platform. We will get into these kind of details in our upcoming webinar in the very detailed level. But this being a very high level overview of what kind of capabilities that Azure offers, especially in the context of this integration and so on. This information, I'm sure, would actually create some interest of considering Microsoft Azure as the platform for running SAP systems. I hope I answered that question of you, John. Over to you. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Sridhar. That was great information, and we'll move over now to the next topic. And this one, Vikram, will be coming your way, and it's around best practices. And best practices are obviously going to be more flavored to what do we see as best practices with YASH Technologies in order to successfully migrate our SAP or our customers' SAP workloads on Azure. So what's that secret sauce that we see in making a project successful when we partner with clients?
Yeah, thank you, John, and thank you, Sridhar, by touch basing on a lot of important points, like what kind of native services Azure provide in collaboration with this cloud. John, your question is like successful migrating SAP workloads on Azure. Very interesting, right? Because every customer environment is different with different SAP systems, components, versions, OSDBs in the landscape, which requires customizing approach in order to migrate them onto Azure. So based on years of experience, YASH developed a migration methodology with various best practices and learnings where we have explored with resolutions. We have come up with a framework which simplifies and accelerates this migration process. And this framework is known as YASH Ascent. This is a YASH framework which has a different various phases actually. They are categorized into 4 phases, like assist phase, mobilize phase, migration, modernize, operation, and optimize. So these are 4 pillars in order to successfully migrate SAP workloads onto Azure. Let me touch base upon all important phases, what exactly this covers. Let me start off with the assess phase. First, customer learns about SAP on Azure and they would like to assess their potential, their workloads to get the potential understanding of their environments, whether what all touch modernization can be accommodated in order to move those workloads to Azure. How YASH helps here, basically. Basically, YASH gets in and they facilitate their discovery workshops with customer and with their SAP, existing SAP and infrastructure team. Important stakeholders will try to conduct some questionnaires or interviews with their existing team, understand their pain points, and lay out a roadmap. In this process, we also educate them what are the potential risks and how can that be handled in order to move these workloads to cloud. In this context, YASH also performs a 360 degrees assessment. When I say 360 degrees, it's not just particular to the SAP environment. It also considers which are tightly integrated with this SAP environments, SAP landscape. There could be multiple third-party connectivities which are already established. So by using this 360 degrees of assessment, we kind of understand their complete infrastructure, and we also leverage the tools. YASH has already partnership with Corentech, a cloud assessment tool, where we have successfully kind of used this tool to the max, and the accuracy is, I would say, close to 100%. And we have developed this tightly integrated partnership, and we have used this tool with multiple customers to automatically analyze their environment. This includes both SAP and non-SAP. In order to just also, we have semi-automatic way of assisting the SAP systems rather, where we also leverage the existing EWA reports, a quick sizer. There are multiple other tools where manually or semi-automatically we can assess the SAP systems. And overall, agent-based system will give you a conclusive report to right size into the target environment by using this native Azure tools as well as the third-party tools. Let me touch base upon another important point. As I was talking about the assess phase, which kind of we have a workshop, you understand the customer environment, we read kind of a conclusive report is given out where we can have a target environment. While doing this process also, we do there is a lot of other activities which can be performed in order to modernize the SAP systems. When I say modernize, there could be a lot of possibilities. Not every customer want to move their system as is to the cloud. Rather, they would want to take up any preparatory projects, I would say, like any SOH migrations, or they want to move their platform from Windows to Linux. So a lot of modernization can be accommodated. While doing this process, if, for example, if you want to move from a Oracle database to HANA database, there is a database change here. So YASH has developed the proprietary tools for the custom code analysis, as well as if you are trying to move on to the application change, for example, ECC to S4HANA. We have another tool which is YASH for HANA. So Sridhar will be talking about those tools in detail. What are the advantages of those tools? How that can be leveraged to the customers who want to leverage these tools? How does this tool will help in accelerating the migration? So Sridhar, if you can give just an overview of these tools, that would be helpful.
Thanks, Vikram. I mean, you made one statement. Whenever a customer decides to move their SAP systems to any of the hyperscalers, like Azure, for example, they may or may not move the systems as is. Because I mean, SAP product themselves has been changing, and SAP itself actually transformed, especially the core ERP system, which is the ECC, which has been the ECC for a long time, and now it has already been transformed into S4, and that has been going on for a while. Now, there are some customers still running on ECC. There are some customers already on S4. But because these systems, let us assume these are on-prem, and we are now migrating those into Azure. Probably during that migration process itself, the customer would want to leverage the advantage of the changes to be done to the ECC environment or the S4 environment as part of this migration, so that, I mean, the time is actually not spent multiple times at a later stage. What I mean to say is, for example, your ECC is running on a Oracle database. For you, if you want to move to next S4 in the future, which is not too far away from now, we are into 2022. I mean, we hardly have around 5 years left before ECC is going to be kind of, I mean, out of maintenance, and S4 is the only product that is going to be available from SAP from an ERP standpoint. In that context, I mean, your ECC getting migrated into an S4 is also important. And why not do that as part of your migration of your on-prem systems to ECC, Azure? But that's a change as well. So, and all of the, because of these business criticality that is always in and around in the SAP systems, we have to ensure that, I mean, the migration and also the modernization activity, like an ECC getting converted into a S4 system, or like the ECC underlying database getting converted from an Oracle to the HANA database and so on, SOH or S4 conversion kind of a thing. That requires a little more deep dive into your SAP systems. And we have been actually doing these kind of ECC conversions to S4, I mean, and ECC SOH migrations to a HANA database for a long time. I mean, on the SAP side for sure. Now, with the Azure is also coming into play, I mean, we actually try to educate the customers and advocate the customers that combine these two possibly, if you can. And because this ECC to SOH or ECC to S4 is also important, that can be done. And the underlying ECC analysis is also important. And these are the two important tool sets that we have been actually working on for a long time. One is something called Pathfinder. The other is YASH for HANA. Coined around, I mean, S4 HANA, of course, but this is YASH for HANA. Pathfinder predominantly is useful in the context of version upgrades, a ECC version upgrade to another ECC version upgrade, or an S4 to S4 upgrade. Nowadays, I mean, a lot of customers are already running on S4. And while, let us say, if their S4 is running on-prem and if they are trying to migrate to Azure, the S4 version upgrade is also a possibility. An 1809 could be converted to a 2021 or 2022 now. So there are distinct advantages, I mean, distinct activities that we have weaved into the specific tool sets that we have developed over a period of time. YASH for HANA, for example, Pathfinder, as I was telling, that was predominantly targeted for the version upgrades of SAP systems, whereas YASH for HANA is predominantly for ECC to S4 conversion. I'm sure a lot of you are aware ECC to S4 conversion has multiple additional touch points that need to be analyzed. Like, for example, whether your customers and vendors have been migrated to business partners. Can those be merged into a business partner as is? Or any adjustments have to be done to the master data? That is also analyzed. Whether your MRP settings are properly in place for your materials. If those are not, probably, I mean, our S4 HANA tool set will automatically identify just by analyzing your ECC system. And your custom code in the context of ECC to S4 conversion, because, I mean, the underlying structures also have been changed, that is also analyzed. And your GL account structures, whether those are properly in place, how are those currently defined, and whether after the conversion from ECC to S4, whether that can actually happen, that can withstand the current GL account structures into the target structures. Will there be any issues that you would actually foresee? All of these are automatically analyzed for this through this S4 HANA conversion toolset as well. So all in all, not only in the context of migrating on-prem systems to Azure, but in general, SAP systems getting converted from an ECC to S4 or a S4 to S4 version upgrades or an ECC to ECC version upgrades context, the proprietary tool sets that we have developed based on our experiences of seeing various different problems in such projects, these tools that we have developed are going to be extremely useful for analyzing your ECC systems, either while migrating those from on-prem to Azure or otherwise. And those will actually provide some beautiful insights, and that will help in migrating your SAP systems also from one version to another and converting to ECC S4 systems much faster. We have seen close to 35 to 40% increase or the reduction in the overall timeline in itself when it comes to using such tools. I hope I answered that question, Vikram, with respect to the tools.
Yes, yes, very much, Sridhar. So, John, I mean, I
Yeah,
think
so
it looks like
Sridhar and Vikram, where we're at with the talking about the assessment phase of a migration. Jeff, I know that YASH has a really unique potential offer for clients in that assessment workshop component of the migration. Would you take just a moment to tease that out, and then also let the audience know how they can engage with us to find out more about the assessment workshops that we offer?
Absolutely. Yes. So as you mentioned, John, the leadership at YASH has given me permission to offer to the people that are attending this webinar a free SAP on Azure workshop. And this workshop is really designed to get to that next level to help you understand what the options are for you and your organization to use Azure as a platform for your SAP solutions. So it's an education opportunity. We will cover, we'll kind of customize the agenda to your specific needs and your specific questions, but in general, we're going to help you understand the challenges that SAP owners have to deal with as it relates to migrating to the cloud and the common pains, and really how to address those pains as you make your journey to the Microsoft cloud. What Microsoft has to offer in terms of SAP workloads, and how how they can help you, and how they specifically differentiate themselves in the marketplace. What are the possible scenarios for SAP on Azure, and how to use Azure resources to extend the functionality of your SAP environment, and how to integrate with other on-premise and cloud resources. So really how to make SAP work specifically for your organization. So at the end of the workshop, you'll know and understand why it makes sense for your organization to use the Azure cloud, the benefits that it can give you, and the kind of scenarios you can build. You'll receive slides and additional documentation associated with that at the end of it to help you make the right decision, and and if moving your SAP workloads to Azure truly makes sense. So we think it's a really good first step, and you'll be able to take advantage of the knowledge and the experience like the folks on this that are on this call can offer to you. So it's a really good offer. And in terms of if you want to take advantage of that, I'm going to be your point person. We'll be sending out some information about this workshop to everybody that's attending the call, along with my contact information. So if you want to take advantage of that, you'll get some information at the end of the call, and it'll be first come, first serve. So we're looking forward to you guys potentially taking advantage of that.
You take advantage of that, Jeff. It's free. I mean, as soon as I heard free, that definitely
is a good number.
Got my attention. Why not take advantage of the free offer, especially for those? It's only for people, as I understand it, that attend today's webinar. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Okay.
I mean, unless somebody comes with us, with a brand new kind of offer that we just can't say no to. We wanted to keep it specific for the folks that took the time to attend our call and are taking advantage of our marketing and education series that we're offering here, because this is very important to YASH. It's very important to what we're doing, and we want our customers and folks on this call to be able to take advantage of that.
Thanks again, Jeff. Vikram, back over to you as we go through the different stages of migration and again, our secret sauce, our best practices. As we get into looking at the mobilize and modernize phase, what are those best practices and secret sauce that we have from that perspective?
Yeah, thank you. I'll proceed with the other phases. Before that, Jamie, Jeff, thank you for that incentive, or whoever is attending, they can leverage that. Adding to that, when Sridhar spoke about this proprietary tools, about the Pathfinder and the S/4HANA, even those are free for service, John. The customers can leverage when they engage YASH. Those tools can definitely reduce as Sridhar was also mentioning, reduce the timeline. 30% timeline is a bigger difference, which will reduce the timeline, as well as which also reduce the cost of the migration. So that is a very important thing, where leveraging those tools. Coming to the modernize and mobilize, we spoke about assessment. And once we spoke of assessing the environment, any customer, what is the outcome of this assessment? So basically, we'll understand the customer's landscape. There is a right path which will be identified, a TCO, a ROI, where this can be provisioned in the target. What is the advantages of that? And also, customer needs to focus on their existing environment. Through this analysis, through this assess phase, we'll understand the customer. What is the database size? Are there can we accommodate any preparatory activities? When I say preparatory activities, there could be a lot of prerequisites or preparatory which we can accomplish before even moving to the target. When we're modernizing, we don't want to take the whole data. Okay, for example, any customer is running their Oracle database or any database for that matter, it could be in terabytes. So what are the preparatory steps can be accomplished? When I say preparatory, again, it could be archiving, where you can reduce the database size. Okay, you don't want to like host taking a bigger instance type and increase your ROI. So archiving can be accomplished. Any Unicode conversion can be accomplished. Search migration, any dependencies. There will be a lot of peripheral systems where there could be some kind of upgrades which are necessary in those peripheral systems, like OSDB migration or OSDB updates or application updates. So this kind of modernization before even we go to our target environment, which is Azure in this scenario, these kind of activities can be accomplished very well in advance so that the accelerator will be much more faster. So this is what we will, before even we start migrating, these are the preparatory steps which can be accomplished and which will give possible benefits in the target system, which is Azure, in reducing the ROI. So touch basing on the mobilize and modernize phase, next comes the operation and optimize. So definitely we can use Azure native tools, and YASH has their own. As John was mentioning, Sridhar is more inclined towards solution manager. There are a lot of solution manager capabilities which we can accomplish from monitoring standpoint. Using Azure tool sets, Azure native tools, we can also leverage SAP, and especially YASH accomplished a lot of capabilities can be collaborated, where you can optimize and operate on day-to-day functions, which can reduce the downtime. You can understand each and everything from 24/7 support standpoint. That's all about mobilize and modernize space, John.
A lot, Vikram. Jeff, can you talk about the partnership and the benefits at this juncture, especially around YASH's sourcing and funding of migration projects?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that comes up a lot as we start to go through these processes. When we look at the YASH and Microsoft SAP on Azure solution, we really want to provide our clients with a holistic approach to migrating your SAP environment, either or to initiate new landscapes within the Azure cloud to maximize your investment. So, some of the things that are associated with that are, just increasing IT agility, speed, and responsiveness to reduce project timelines from months to days, taking advantage of the elastic cost model that's associated with Azure to help lower overall TCO as between 10 and 70%, and then access to innovation, as we discussed, to the integration of other Microsoft tools such as IoT services, Data Factory, and HANA integration, as well as making sure we mitigate risk by ensuring that we have cloud data security set up. So lots of different ways that we can help you save time and money. But one of the most important things that folks want to know about is any sort of incentives and service funding that might be available to customers from Microsoft and the Microsoft partners to make this migration. And that's where I think I can come in and help a little bit. So just a little bit about my background. I spent 13 years at Microsoft on the partner team in the field service group. So pretty much my whole job was to help partners find funding to help reduce the cost of these sorts of integrations and find funding that partners can take advantage of. So I can tell you that Microsoft is very interested in your organization migrating to the Azure cloud, migrating your SA workloads and really any workloads to the Azure cloud. That's how they're paid and that's how they're compensated. And they offer a number of different programs to take advantage of. And the amount that you can receive is based on a number of different factors. Things like, are you a managed partner, a managed customer of Microsoft? What is your timeline for moving? And then what sort of resources are available, because they do have funding available, but the funding is limited, I would say, and it comes as a first come first serve, and they want to understand your environment, and they want to understand what the Azure opportunity is to Microsoft, so they can so they can really hit their numbers and hit their quotas that are associated with their salespeople. So we at YASH can help you to get in contact with the right people, find the right programs, and maximize the amount of incentives and service funding available if you do determine to make this migration. So once we get through that initial workshop, that initial assessment phase, we give you an understanding of what it's going to take in terms of services and in terms of Azure spend to be able to accomplish this migration. We can work with your organization to go to Microsoft and put together a great story to maximize the amount of service funding and incentives that you can receive from Microsoft. So we will help you create a deal, get you to the best deal possible with Microsoft based on your specific needs and the size of your specific environment. So each situation is different. Each organization, based on the criteria that I just mentioned, each one's different in terms of the amount that you can receive, but YASH, because of our experience and background, can help you maximize that if and when you are ready to make that migration. So I'll just leave it there. Just know that we've got the skills and the knowledge to be able to help you with that part of the conversation as well, help you foster and build that relationship with Microsoft so you're getting the best deal possible.
You know, Jeff, as you were explaining your ability to liaison with Microsoft to get funding and get the money from Microsoft to help our clients, it made me chuckle internally. I'm thinking of you right now as Santa Claus. Maybe you should have worn that hat, because you're bringing the free workshop. You're helping clients get Microsoft's money. I mean, from today's workshop, if I was the customer, I'd want to talk to Jeff, because you have all the good stuff that I can get for at least a discount or maybe even free. So it made me laugh. You're stealing the show there.
Well, that's, yeah. Well, you know what they say. There's the 4 stages of life for a guy, right? You believe in Santa, you don't believe in Santa, you are Santa, and then you look like Santa. So I'm in that phase where where I get to be Santa. So happy to help you with anybody that needs that assistance. So we are available, and this is very important to us.
Belated Christmas greetings to everyone.
There you go. Right. So I'll get back on task, Jeff, because Sridhar and Vikram are gonna get after me for taking us off topic here. And I know there's one final stage in our migration best practices, and that's getting into the operate and optimize phase of things, Vikram. So moving back to you to tie a bow on our best practices, and we've got about 14 minutes now left in the webinar. So we'll get through this stage, and then Sridhar, after this, I'll come to you with a question, and then we'll move to wrapping things up. So Vikram, over to you for the final stage discussion.
Yep. So I'll not take much time here, everyone, because I've already kind of covered most of the things in this when I spoke earlier. Okay. So the conclusion of this phases is what I want to accomplish here. Okay. So as the YASH framework, we spoke about the assessment, we spoke about the mobilize, we spoke about the modernize, migration, and operate and optimize. So put together, what is that we are understanding here is that by following this process, by following this framework, YASH has proven again and again with multiple customers, by following this process, we have accomplished the smooth migration with accelerated migration, and with operate and optimize phase. Again, I will emphasize on that. This eventually, after the migration, how do you stabilize the systems? How do you handle those systems? How do you monitor those systems on cloud? YASH has a vast experience in handling Azure capabilities, using Azure native tools in collaboration with YASH proprietary tools, be that a refresh, be that analyzing 24/7 monitoring, any cloud monitoring. So we have in-depth knowledge in doing this process. By using this framework, any customer can accelerate their migration smoothly. That would be a closing statement. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Vikram. Well, like I said, Sridhar, coming back to you right now, and this is going to be specific to your experiences with regard to migration of SAP workloads on Azure. Give the audience a taste of what those experiences have been.
Sure. I mean, once again, just to continue on what Vikram mentioned and touching upon the points, like, I mean, various different customers that we have provided these kind of services, and what all various different industry verticals, what all various scenarios that we have covered. Our services have been, I would say, end to end, right from a consulting, advisory, migration, managed services support. So it's a breadth of, I mean, and end-to-end services from a migration of SAP workload standpoint. I mean, it is just not SAP when it comes to cloud consulting services or advisory services, right? Sometimes, I mean, only SAP workloads are identified to be migrated. Sometimes SAP and the peripheral applications also are to be migrated. Sometimes only some portions of applications are to be migrated. So every customer scenario is different. For example, in one of the Switzerland-based building components company that's headquartered in Switzerland. I mean, they have European operations, US operations, APAC operations. We completely delivered that project within the pandemic situations. I mean, completely from offshore, remotely delivered, and all these breadth of services. I mean, right from consulting, I mean, analyzing their existing systems. I mean, using our SN framework, analyzing their existing entire landscape. I mean, with the agent and without agent-based analysis in different pockets of their networks. Based on other security concerns. I mean, because of that, I mean, we actually used agent in one side, agent-based analysis in one side, I mean, without that in one side, and eventually combined all of those into advising them as to what should be their cloud foundation, what should be the way their cloud is to be set up, or with a overlapping of security, with a overlapping of the peripheral systems coming into play, and so on. That is one customer that we have recently delivered, and one more HVAC air technology systems. I mean, this is also based in the United States. We have actually migrated their SAP workloads to Azure. And one of another interesting customer that actually always passes through my mind is for one of the customers based out of Europe, when they were actually doing a carve out and one of their units was bought by a US entity, we had to carve out the US or rather European business and European business related entity has to be pulled out of the European hosted Azure environment and actually to be hosted in US based regions. So these are GDPR compliant systems. So obviously, quote unquote, within the GDPR compliances, we actually made sure that the customer systems and the customer security concerns without overstepping on the security and legal compliances, we were able to carve out that SAP portion of it and then put it in the US region. And there is one more, once again, this is a ground-based ground air services, I mean, that are offered by one of the customers. They are into, they are UAE-based, the Middle East. So basically, see, we talked about, I mean, US-based customers. We talked about, I mean, European-based customers, APAC-based customers, UAE, which is in the Middle East. So, I mean, truly, YASH is actually providing and has been providing, especially Azure-oriented services across the globe. And this customer that I was referring to, we have actually migrated their SAP systems by combining some of the proprietary projects that Vikram was touching upon earlier. Unicode conversion, they were not Unicode incidentally. So we actually converted their systems into Unicode, provided the initial advisory and strategic consulting services and help them in forming the cloud. By the way, when it comes to forming the cloud, we don't actually do that manually anymore. I mean, we have the end-to-end scripts using the Ansible Terraform of the world in place, which can actually help in creating the entire cloud formation in no time. In fact, I mean, based on the kind of the customer that we're talking about, we quickly form the cloud automatically using the scripts that are readily available, right from setting up the foundation, landing zones, control towers, Active Directory integrations, creating VPCs. All of these are actually written in the form of scripts using Terraform and Ansible and so on. And there are GitHub scripts available. We actually take those and tweak those and for the customer's requirements and so on based on our experiences adding to that. All of these are automatically done nowadays, and we actually have been helping customers in automatically doing these activities, thereby reducing the overall timeline and increasing the overall ROI. So in short, not only on the customer side, this is important. How are we able to actually achieve building tools? How are we able to achieve writing scripts and keeping those ready so that, I mean, automatically these can be addressed? We have a dedicated, not only a COE per se, but I mean, there is a decent investment that was made by YASH Technologies into the services, into the people. We have various different so-called PTG groups, platform and technology groups, from SAP, platform and technology groups from Azure, platform and technology from various other digital technologies. All of these come together, combine their knowledge together, arrive at a decision of, okay, I mean, this is where the customer could be benefited through us. Let us actually come up with some kind of a tool set in automating all of that. So that's how, I mean, we have been actually building the tools also in conjunction with our own customers and also our own delivery teams who are delivering and taking their inputs as to what are the problems that they have been facing while delivering such engagements to the customers. Take that as an input and actually roll it into that into our tools features. And I mean, slowly our tool set is also kind of getting enhanced over a period of time. That's how, I mean, we have been actually doing this and being able to deliver these kind of engagements at an enterprise level for multiple customers across the globe. Over to you, John.
Reader, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Jeff, I know you got a couple of last or end of webinar housekeeping items. I do see, and this is no surprise to me, there are a couple of questions that have come up about the assessment itself. And I'd like to try to get to both of them, but if time doesn't allow, obviously you can connect with them directly afterwards. But the first one is, how many weeks of assessment is generally required?
So, Sridhar, do you want to answer that, or shall I take it?
Yeah, go ahead, Vikram. No worries.
Yeah. So generally, John, no, I don't know the respective person who has asked that question. Generally, it depends upon very, I mean, customer to customer. Recently, we have just for the SAP workloads, we have given somewhere around 5 to 6 weeks of quote for the assessment. Again, it depends if it's how small, how big is the customer, and how big the SAP landscape is. But it would be somewhere around 3 to 7 weeks, John.
So Vikram, if I'm understanding correctly, once that info sheet goes out to all of the attendees that Jeff touched on when he was explaining the assessment, it'll have that contact information to Jeff, have them reach out to Jeff. We can start the conversation. And I'm assuming very quickly we can scope out what the assessment, that workshop assessment is going to look like. Okay, perfect. The other question, and I said, want to try to touch on this one too before we wrap up. And this, anybody jump in with the answer. Does the assessment provide the connectivity recommendation between on-prem and Azure?
Yeah.
John, I just answered.
Okay, got it. I just saw it just popped up as I was asking it, Sridhar. So just run through it real quick for the other attendees that may have that same question.
Absolutely. In short, that's a very important question. I mean, thanks for asking. I hope I'm actually pronouncing your name right. That is John, I guess. Yes, in short. I'm simply repeating what I said in that for the benefit of the rest of the team members. See, there are definitely some factors to be considered while providing a recommendation around the connectivity for sure. Having said that, I mean, we have to understand, I mean, where are your on-prem systems located? How are those structured? Are those distributed across various different data centers, colo data centers, private data centers, or is that, I mean, your own customer data centers? And where are we expecting these Azure target systems to be hosted? Which region, which country? And accordingly, there could be some options readily available. There could be some options, I mean, that we can actually, and we will work through in conjunction with Microsoft and so on. But in short, post the assessment, yes, absolutely. I mean, even the recommendation around what kind of connectivity between your on-prem systems, not just on-prem systems, but I mean, your plants, your maybe end user locations, all of these are going to be considered and have to be considered. And our recommendation would definitely include what kind of connectivity options are available for you and what kind of connectivity options should you be choosing, and so on and so forth. That's a 360 degrees assessment, which actually covers that as well.
Just to add what Sridhar has explained here, John, definitely our assessment will provide the connectivities information from on-prem to Azure, and also what kind of connectivity and what is needed while migrating and what can be retired after migration, because you don't want to have that connectivity which is costing you, right? The migration will have a certain connectivity where once the migration is done, then you can switch back to a cost-effective connectivity. So yes, definitely all those recommendations will be part of the assessment to be sure.
Thank you, Vikram. Thank you, Sridhar. Jeff, over to your closing comments, and then I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to thank everybody for coming and listening to us today. We are committed to continuing to provide education to our customers and the IT community in general. And in the spirit of that, we are going to be doing our next webinar on the subject matter on March 23rd at 11 a.m. Eastern. And that webinar is going to be called SAP on Azure Migration and Modernization. And we encourage you to join us as we discuss how SAP on Azure helps increase performance, agility, and availability of your SAP applications, the different types of Azure architectures for SAP workloads. And we're also going to talk about security, storage, data management, high availability / disaster recovery, and networking solutions to ensure business continuity. So those are going to be the big areas that we discuss, as well as how the new SAP and Microsoft partnership simplifies that migration of on-premise SAP workloads to the cloud. So lots to learn about, lots to discuss, and the next one's going to be on March 23rd. So be there or be square. Back to you, John.
Great, Jeff, thank you very much for the attendees that have been with us throughout the webinar. Jeff did mention there will be an info sheet coming out to all of you with connection information to Jeff to get more information on the assessment workshop. Also, if you want to reach out to us, you can do that with Azure_info@yash.com. Again, that's Azure_info@yash.com. You can send that email that will go to our Azure mailbox, and then we will be sure to respond to you within 24 hours. So again, thanks to everybody for our Vikram. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, John. I mean, just a small correction. It's just info@yash.com. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. So info.
We can put it in the chat window real quick.
Yeah. I did type that info in the chat session.
Okay, thanks, Sridhar. Yep. Thank you, Sridhar. So everybody, again, I know we're a minute past. I want to thank everybody for your time and have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Thanks,
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.